Very excited for this morning's keynote panel. What we've been trying to do, as John started talking about yesterday, is really highlighting our hometown of St. Paul and Minneapolis. And there's so many great things going on here, from the architecture and the history in this area to a lot of the cultural things in the Guthrie Theater right down the block, and also on the tech scene. And we were talking as we're planning this event on what we could do to really highlight some of the things that are going on in the tech scene in the Twin Cities. And there's a ton of great, really cool startups, from software sort of SaaS startups to a lot of med tech and things like that. And so we started talking about that. But then a lot of us are also involved in a lot of community organizations. So I've been involved in the Overnight Website Challenge, which you'll hear about a little bit. Other people have been involved in Coder Dojo and some of the other nonprofit organizations and community-based technology organizations around town. And we really thought that really highlighted what's going on in the Twin Cities, that there's enough of activity around technology that really shows through a lot of what these organizations are doing. So we're really excited to do a little different style of panel this morning. I'll introduce first here our MC, Mike Bollinger. Mike's the founder of TECHdotMN. You should all look it up on your phone. TECHdotMN is a community-based technology blog. And Livefront, and Mike will talk a little bit more about that. And then we'll go down the line and have each of the panelists introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their organization. Mike has some questions for each of the panelists that he'll be asking, but also we encourage all of you to be thinking of questions as we're going. One of the themes and how it sort of interacts with all of you is these technology organizations, all of them, are connecting up corporations and people to underserved communities through technology. And so while I think most of these organizations actually have chapters in other cities as well, so there may be a chapter in your city, or we encourage you to search out organizations like this in your own community as well and support them. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike and the rest of the panelists, and thank you very much.
Thanks. I got the, oh, you did. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Kelly. Really excited to be here. Good morning. My name is Mike. And like Kelly mentioned, I co-founded TECHdotMN. We are a blog of sorts, Minnesota's source for news about what's happening in the technology community. So we provide that content, both curated and original content, about what's happening in the community with an emphasis on the startup culture and technology. But we also have an events calendar with all of the events happening here locally. We run some of our own events as well. We have a jobs board, and we have a database and directory of all of the companies and people and groups and meetups that are a part of the community here in Minnesota. I also founded a company called Livefront, and we help organizations, large and small, from the two-person startup to the Fortune 500 companies, design and build mobile apps. So we're a software consulting company. But really, we're here today to talk, like Kelly mentioned, about that more community-based side and what's happening in Minnesota and frankly, around the country with a lot of these organizations. And I'm really just here to help facilitate questions. So let's pass it down and just do a few introductions. Mark, you want to start out with what you guys are up to with the Overnight Challenge?
Sure. So my name's Mark Malberg, and I'm from The Nerdery. We're a custom design and development software company. And in 2008, we started a nonprofit initiative where we gather a bunch of web developers from throughout the community. So not just The Nerdery, but other companies, people who do what we do. And we lock them all in a room for 24 hours with a bunch of nonprofits, and we build websites pro bono. And we just had our last event this last weekend, so excuse me if I'm a bit groggy. So I'm still catching up on sleep from that, but we've grown the event a little bit each year. We started here in the Twin Cities, and we've since added Chicago because we have an office there, and since added Kansas City as we built an office there. And we've recently started an office in Phoenix, so that's probably another dot on the map for next spring. But we just do it to make an impact in the communities where our nerds live and work, and to meet other developers who do what we do. And we found that these are the kind of people that will spend their weekends tinkering on websites anyways at 2 in the morning, so why not give them a purpose and give them some nonprofits to help at the same time. And so far that's worked out fairly well for 175 nonprofits.
And both, I should mention, there's probably some people in the room that have done this as well, but both Kelly and I have been a part of the Overnight Web Challenge, and it is pretty incredible what happens when you lock like hundreds of geeks into a room alongside of nonprofit organizations that are doing really cool things. It's amazing what can happen in 24 hours. So, thanks, Mark. Jenna?
Hi, my name is Jenna Pedersen. In my day job, I am an independent web developer. I'm here today because I co-run the Twin Cities chapter of the Geekettes. The Geekettes is a global organization started in Berlin in 2011, and we're really focused on elevating and highlighting women in the community, and trying to get more women into technology and trying to keep them there. There's a lot of both retention issues as well as getting girls and women interested in the technology field, and so we really focus on that. We host, here in the Twin Cities, we host monthly events. They range from workshops to events like financing your startup or learning how to write your resume, to learn to code workshops. Those are typically our most popular. And then in mid-May, we're actually hosting the first all-women hackathon here in the Twin Cities. So yeah.
Thanks, Jenna. Yeah, there's been a lot of momentum, I think, recently with the Geekettes and just a lot of initiatives that for getting more and more attention and accolades for women in tech. So.
We get a lot of attention, there's a lot of interest both from companies and from the women in this community, and every time we have an event, it blows me away how much interest there is in changing this, so yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Jenna. Go ahead, Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric Goinis. I work at Project for Pride and Living here in Minneapolis. We're a large multi-service nonprofit focusing mostly on housing. We have over 1,200 housing units throughout the Twin Cities, but we also do job training, education, we run a bunch of schools, and I oversee the youth development portion of our organization. I'm here today because actually Mike and his partner Jeff came to us several years ago wanting to help diversify and encourage youth who live in our housing to get more involved in technology careers and help diversify the tech industry a little more in the Twin Cities. And so over the last 5 years, we've developed a mentoring curriculum with the kids 6th grade through 8th grade basically get a laptop, 4G internet for a year, open source software, and are matched with a one-on-one mentor for the school year, and they go through this curriculum and learn all about all the different fun things you can do with technology. Most of our kids don't have access to the internet at home, and so they're using their technology for schoolwork, for job searches, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really kind of setting them up for success in the 21st century.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And I've obviously had the privilege of working directly with Eric over the years, and it's really cool to see the effect that a computer, because not only do a lot of these kids not have internet, they also don't have a computer to be eligible to even be in the program. They don't have a computer at all. So providing these youth with those means is a pretty life-changing event at that age. So thanks, Eric. Go ahead, Abby.
Hi, everyone. I'm Abby Otteson with Genesis Works Twin Cities. So Genesis Works is a national nonprofit, and we provide opportunities for low-income high school seniors to work in Fortune 500 companies in an IT internship while they're seniors in high school. So we provide we recruit students when they're juniors in high school around the Twin Cities and provide a really intensive professional development and IT training that summer before their senior year. And then when students successfully make it through the training, we set them up with internships in the Twin Cities. So we started our Twin Cities site in 2008 with only 11 students, and this year we have just over 200 students working in internships at big companies in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, and watching the growth of Genesis Works has been incredible too over the last couple of years. Just that growth from 2008 to now is awesome. Thanks for being here, Abby. And actually, let's start with you. You know, I'm actually curious with all of you, how do you, a lot of the success of your programs, from the Overnight Challenge to Genesis Works to TechSpark, relies heavily on mentors that are willing to donate their time above and beyond all the time that you guys and your organizations are giving. How do you recruit those mentors, and how do you attract people to volunteer and get involved?
Sure. So we have kind of a broad sense of the term mentor. So we don't have people who we assign as mentors to our students, but when our students go into the workplace, they have one dedicated staff person at Genesis Works who helps manage them in their internship and helps them also with the college application process. And then at work, they also have a workplace supervisor. And that person really plays a huge role in helping them develop over the course of the year. So I think, you know, recruiting supervisors happens a few different ways. Usually we recruit like a key person at a company, and through their network, other people start to get involved. But, you know, we found a lot of different success in people even not having, maybe we like to use the word voluntold, so maybe they were voluntold to supervise a Genesis Works student. But I think once they have that experience of working one-on-one with a young person, really buy in and have a desire to continue working with someone the following year.
That's great. What do you, Eric?
For us, I'm very lucky in that I have 2 full-time staff who do volunteer recruitment for my department. We recruit over 400 volunteers a year to work with about 400 kids. And we actually ask a fairly significant commitment, so meeting with those kids twice a week for 2 hours at a time for the entire school year. So it is a fairly big commitment. And what we've discovered over the years is that really the kids who are already working with a mentor have the best success when we overlay the TechSpark curriculum on top of it and enter them in this more tech leadership program. The mentors love it because for a lot of them, it's skills that they get to show off that they already have, and so they're able to help the kids navigate what might be some more difficult pieces of software. We do 3D modeling, we do video editing, audio editing, things like that. So it's a learning experience for the mentors and for the kids, and we take a lot of pride in kind of the commitment that we do ask of our mentors, and the success level that we do have with them.
So for Geekettes, locally we don't have a formal mentorship program. We've only been around here in the Twin Cities for about a year. But what we do is really everything is by word of mouth. All of our members have heard about us through someone else that has heard about us. And the same thing goes for any of our volunteers or connecting women who are trying to break into the technology field. It's really just, Kristen, my partner in crime, we really are just connecting other women to people that are already in this field or have been here and have left, or really just a very informal way of mentoring.
And we don't so much recruit mentors as we recruit fellow volunteers, and we just try and stay very active in the development community and know all the other nerds out there and word of mouth. And we have media people like Mike and TECHdotMN that help us spread the word in the tech crowd. So that's how we attract our crowd.
And how do you enlist the kind of corporate sponsors and the nonprofits? How do you go through that selection process for the nonprofits that get to take advantage of the hundreds of developers?
So we do outreach simultaneously with the nonprofit crowd and the volunteer crowd, and we just basically open registration for both at the same time. The teams organize very organically. It starts with the captain, who starts recruiting like-minded people who want to do some good in the community, but
Starts with a captain on the development team.
on the development team, yes. And we ask them to kind of cover the bases between front-end development, back-end, somebody who can do some QA, somebody who can do some user experience, somebody who can manage the project. Some teams bring copywriters, but just cover all the bases, recruit 8 to 10 professionals. On the nonprofit side, we ask them to apply, tell us their sob story, show us their terrible website or lack thereof, lay out their vision for what they would do with the opportunity of working with a team of professionals for 24 hours. How would it actually help their business do what they do better online? How would it help them build community, raise funds, whatever they want to do? And then we have a group of judges who don't work for us, who are impartial, who are nonprofit leaders, other developers, people in the interactive field who assess the applications of the nonprofits. And once we know, when we have the number of qualified volunteer teams, we invite the corresponding number of nonprofits to the event. As far as the corporate sponsors go, we're really not that aggressive going after sponsors. Basically, we'll answer the phone and thank them when they call, but we don't really do a lot of formal outreach to sponsors. Most of the sponsors that we've had really kind of landed in our lap, and we're grateful for them.
And you guys have events not only in Minneapolis, but in other places around the country, right?
Yeah, it's true. We started doing Chicago 3 years ago, and we used to stagger that one. So we do our event here in the spring and that event in the fall. And then when we added Kansas City last year, we decided to do them all at the same time.
Okay. And the nonprofits are from those locales, or are they from all over the country?
Yeah, so we can have local impact. For the Minnesota event, it's 501c3 organizations that are registered as that in Minnesota. And in Kansas City, we allow Kansas and Missouri because that's a border city. And in Chicago, it's just Illinois nonprofits. We want to kind of make a local impact. And just logistically, we have to draw the line somewhere. We can have people traveling from across the country for a 24-hour event and then driving back to Oregon, because that's not safe.
Right. They have to be within 10 minutes. So Jenna, speaking of impact, talk about your relation to the larger national ECATS association or organization, and how you guys fit into that, and where you're going, what your vision is.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the GECATS was born in Berlin in 2011, and by two women, Jess Erickson and Denise Phillip. They got together with a couple of their friends one night for dinner and started talking about their careers and technology and trading tips and advice for working in the field as women. And that's really how it was born. And so a few years later, they started expanding, or during that time, they started expanding throughout Europe. And Jess is actually one of the founders. She's actually from the Twin Cities. And so that's partly how the chapter here got started, is she was friends with one of the original leaders of this chapter. And so about a year ago, they started it up here. And I came on board in June of last year. But really our relationship with the global organization is, in general, it's just for direction and for, again, mentorship with other women around the world. Each chapter is free to essentially program what is right for their market and run how they need to run their chapter.
So talk to us a little bit about the programming. Are you doing specific things to help companies recruit females in the tech industry? Are you doing, what mechanisms are you using to reach out? Yeah, so our main way of reaching out to the women in the Twin Cities is running our monthly events. So like I said earlier, we've got Learn to Code workshops, different sort of confidence building, soft skill building events, as well as networking events. How we're reaching out to the organizations around the Twin Cities. We don't work directly with anyone as far as recruiting. I definitely get a lot of questions about how do I recruit more women or a more diverse team. So we answer those kind of on a one-off basis. But as far as organizations being involved with us, we have a lot of people that are interested in attending our events, organizations that are interested in attending our events as well as sponsoring them. Yeah. And Eric, talk a little bit about the program at TechSpark and how that's, where it's at now in terms of size and how that's grown over the years.
Sure. So one of the things Mike didn't mention is that he and Jeff were two of our first mentors 5 years ago, when it was just 3 kids from one housing building. Now we're working with 15 to 20 kids a year. There are several kids who do it multiple years. They like it so much they want to come back and hone their skills. Plus they get another year of free 4G internet, so that's... They like that. Internet anywhere is important to a teenager. So it started really as just a mentoring program that happened to have a technology component. Now it's really kind of grown to a very multifaceted mentoring and growth program where the kids really start to understand that these days, in order to get any sort of job that pays decently and has benefits, you're going to need to know about technology. The classic example is we had a kid who ended up with a job at the Birchwood Cafe, which is a famous bakery here in South Minneapolis. And when he got there, realized that the main oven that they use is totally programmable. So if you want to make granola, you got to program in the granola program, and if you want to make scones, you got to program in the scone program. Things like that, and just understanding that really it's important to have not only a sense of what technology can do, but also a flexibility to be able to teach yourself things and be able to work with maybe not the highest end. You know, we can't afford to buy Office licenses for all the kids, so we use open source. We use Apache Office right now, but all of the software we use is open source. The kids are encouraged to find open source solutions to things. We do evaluation using the North Star Digital Literacy Standards, which were also developed here in Minnesota. Really kind of a job training standard for minimum technology requirements for workforce training. But the kids have targets there too. The kids meet with their mentors, again, twice a week for the entire school year. They have 6 units that they go through that start with, you know, internet safety and a parent introduction on you have a special admin password. It's your responsibility to make sure your kids aren't doing things they're not supposed to be doing because they're teenagers. And you know, building all the way up to 3D modeling software that we then can take to, we have a makers collective here in South Minneapolis called the Hack Factory, and they have computer-driven laser cutters and 3D printers and computer-driven welding equipment, and it's all in this old warehouse in Seward. And so every year we take the kids out there and they get to do laser cut puzzles. They get to, one kid who designs an amazing house gets to print his house out 3D. What's that?
Life-size house?
No, well. So the kid who won last year actually designed a pyramid with his name on the top of it so you could see it from space. So yeah, life-size would have been tough on that. Yeah. But also for us as an organization, it's required us to be more nimble because I have to find low-cost laptops. I have to negotiate 4G internet for 15 to 20 kids. I have to find a volunteer who will load all this software, maintain the laptops. We have to figure out resources for when a laptop goes bad, and we have to do a total reinstall because kids, kids, viruses. So not only is it teaching that nimbleness to the kids and to the mentors, it's also teaching it to me. You know, when I walk into Micro Center and say, well, what do you got for, $349 a piece that, that's going to offer me some decent quality and speed and power. So. And
so what, you guys have been doing this for the last couple of years, obviously. What would you say is the biggest learning from organizational or programming or mentorship perspective, and what have you changed in your program based on that learning?
So I think the biggest learning is that as where we were recruiting kids previously and then recruiting mentors to go with those kids, what we've really switched to now is kids who already have a mentoring relationship. So the relationship is already in place. So there's a trust level that's already been established, at least for a little bit, probably a year, before they start this relationship where kids are going to be sharing a little more private information because it's their personal laptop. And mentors have to have a sense of what is it that this kid wants in their life, what are their goals, what are they striving for, and how can I keep them on track and kind of, minimize the Facebook stuff and maximize the productivity stuff. So, and also just making sure we have competent staff who are overseeing each group. That's been a struggle over the years because you have to have staff who are really on top of all of the software, who are able to fix bugs quickly, who are able to troubleshoot the internet stuff as a session starts. Because as you all know, if you walk into a room and you're doing a project and you can't get a signal, you're kind of screwed for the day. So those kind of things,
Sure.
yeah.
Abby, how about you, as you've been part of Genesis Works growth all the way through, what have you seen the organization learn and therefore change drastically over the years?
Sure, yeah. So we've always put a ton of focus on training our students and getting our students ready for this corporate environment. So our summer training is really like a crash course on how to act in a professional environment. So most of our students have never learned how to dress professionally, have never learned how to write a professional email. If you think back to when you first learned how to tie a tie, for example, many of our students are learning those skills in Genesis Works. So I think we continue to hold our students to really high expectations, but I think one thing that we've learned is that we need to provide supervisors a really high level of support as well. So, because believe it or not, most supervisors haven't supervised a high school student in a corporate environment before. So, so there are some learnings that came out of that, and over the past year, we've made some programmatic changes. So, we offer a supervisor training that's more of an extensive background on where our students are coming from, what are some best practices to be a workplace supervisor and manage one of our students. And we provide a lot of one-on-one support with a program staff person and that supervisor.
And Mark, how about you guys? I know that your program has changed over the years too, with the Overnight Web Challenge. Beyond just adding more cities, have you changed structurally how the competition works, or who's involved, or how companies are selected or teams are selected?
Yeah, I guess we've changed the end game quite a bit. And what I mean by that is the first year it wasn't a 24-hour event. We actually we made the mistake of having meal breaks. We'll never do that again. We had people stop programming for an hour. Can't do that. We actually had every team present at the end of the event, and that was a train wreck. And judges were probably making not the most informed and rushed decision. And we've since said, go home, everybody, finish up your websites. We'll see you in a couple weeks. We'll have a post-event where we can be more purposeful, give the judges more time to click through all this work, really dig into it, see what impact you've made for these nonprofits, hear from the nonprofits in depth, testimonials of how this is actually going to impact their nonprofit going forward and better their community. And I think it's given the teams a better opportunity to really shine and to show their work, and the nonprofits a better platform to articulate what this really means to them and how it's going to help their constituents. So the end game has changed considerably, and we keep kind of changing. We hope we improve the experience every time. What I mean by that is you can't just work for 24 hours, you'll go crazy. So we've added some diversions. We let people have chair massages. We bring in petting zoos. We've done all kinds of different fun things to just kind of break up the monotony of an otherwise, grind. It can be a grind, but the care and feeding of nerds and nonprofits in the wee hours is very important to the event, and I'd like to think that we've gotten better at that as well.
Yeah. Do you see a lot of people come back? A lot of return participants?
Yes, definitely. I mean, this year we had people that had done it for the 5th, 6th, and 7th time.
Very cool.
So people do keep coming back. They take a year off, regroup, come back. We've even had nonprofits try again, but there's so many nonprofits out there that they've not been reelected.
Sure. Yep. They don't get a new website every year.
No, you got to wait.
Yeah. So I want to talk about how you folks measure the success or measure the impact of what you're doing every day. What does that look like? You want to start, Abby?
So we measure success in a few different ways. We, throughout the course of the year, provide performance reviews for our students when they're in their internship. So they have 2 opportunities to have a formal performance review and earn a raise. So that's how we evaluate students. We do a lot of kind of satisfaction surveys. A few indicators for us, one of the big ones, we don't just provide an internship for students, we also provide coaching and support when it comes to applying to college. Most of our students are the first in their family to go to a 4-year college, and so we provide really extensive help there. And so one of our key benchmarks is how many of our students at the end of the year go on to enroll in college. And so for us, that's been a really exciting. Right now, 100% of our students are accepted to college, and about 95% actually enroll on that first day in the fall. And then even beyond that is how many of our students are persisting in college. So that's a big point of focus for us now, is we're starting to have students get to that point of actually graduating from college, a few of whom are going back to work for those companies where they had their original internship through us.
At PPL and Youth Development, we use several different measures, and one of the nice things about TechSpark is that it has really improved our attendance. So with middle schoolers, as you might know, they tend to flake a little bit on their commitments. So the rule is you get to keep your laptop at the end of the year if you attended 75% or more of the time. So 100% of our TechSpark participants attend 75% because they want their laptop. But not only that, because of that, they make their reading benchmarks, because we're also a literacy-based program. So 100% of those middle schoolers are hitting their reading benchmark at the end of the year. They all improve their social skills because they're doing all that one-on-one work with mentors. And then again, we use the North Star Digital Literacy Standards, which if you reach the passing grade, which is 85% correct, it's an online kind of it's an online test in different areas of email, internet, Word, operating systems, things like that. And they'll provide you badges that you can actually put on your resume. And we're trying to kind of make that a standard for new job seekers in Minnesota, that's something that employers recognize. So the kids who participate in the TechSpark program actually, even though they may not have started in the cream of our crop, they definitely end in the cream of our crop. So.
That's great. Jenna?
Yeah, we have a couple of very kind of informal ways of kind of measuring where we're going as an organization locally. One of those is after each event, we take a survey. Did you enjoy it? Would you recommend this to your friends? And that's shown us really whether what we're doing on a monthly basis is right for our community here. We've also done end-of-year surveys, which was directly fed into our programming for the entire year, as well as we look at the number of members that we have and how we've grown over the last year. We started last year, obviously, so we started at 0, and we're at about 200 right now. And like I said, it's all by word of mouth. So one of our questions that we ask is this event or is this organization something that you'll be recommending to your friends?
And because we deal in pro bono services for this initiative, we ask for free advice, and we get plenty of it. Every year we ask for feedback from the volunteers, the judges, the nonprofits, and we just try and tweak it each time going forward. One thing that we learned was to be more purposeful about matching the nonprofits and the volunteer teams. So we added a pre-event where we got feedback from them all. We literally have a speed dating exercise where they go around the room and we force them to talk to each other, and they give us feedback and free advice. And that's in order to hopefully form more perfect unions going forward.
And what's the continuing goal for the Overnight Challenge? Are you guys looking to expand other cities? You want to keep it about the same size with the cities you're in? What's your game plan?
Certainly, it keeps growing a little bit in the cities that we're in. We've opened an office in Phoenix. They're next. They're going to be next spring, likely. the sky's the limit. I mean, we see this having legs really anywhere where there are nonprofits, good nonprofits with bad websites, and really you can throw a dart at the map, and that's anywhere.
Right, right. And Jenna, with your, I'm curious on your perspective. I think that your organization targets mostly professionals and entrepreneurs. What's your perspective on getting females involved earlier in the process at a younger age? And does your organization address that at all, or are there other initiatives that?
Great question. Yeah, so if you've probably heard, there's both a retention problem as well as what people call the pipeline problem. And it's a little bit controversial, but I'm of the opinion that both of them are problems. And when I looked for an organization to become involved with, I wanted to start with kind of the retention problem, because this is where I am on a day-to-day basis. I'm one of those people that was considering, leaving tech during my career, and so I kind of wanted to address that just on a personal level. And really, we've, like I said earlier, each chapter is able to address the whole, or is able to program for their market, for what their market needs. And when Kristen and I sat down at the beginning of this year, or in December, to figure out what we wanted to do for 2015, we decided we were going to focus on adult women that are either already in the tech space or trying to break in. And the reason for that is we looked at our surveys and we found that there are a lot of people that are really interested in learning more about this space, and a lot of adults that are still interested in learning more about this space. And we know that there are organizations, well-established organizations here in the Twin Cities, that are already dealing with trying to get more kids involved and more girls involved. There's several organizations here, that the Coder Dojo, KEG Coder Dojo, Technovation, there's a handful of them, and they already have a lot of support. And kind of the way we work with them is we do cross-promote of our events and their events, as well as make sure that our members are aware of any volunteer opportunities with those organizations as well.
Right. Eric, Mark, Abby, what do you guys see in your organizations, in your programs, I guess, at the Challenge, at TechSpark, in terms of participation, male versus female? What are those ratios like?
Yeah, we're about 50-50. So we fluctuated a little bit, and actually I think this year we just finished recruiting students for this coming summer, and I think we're actually closer to 55% females, and so kind of stay pretty even.
Yeah.
Traditionally, over the last few years, so all of our students are students of color. About 2/3 of them this year are either Spanish-speaking, native Spanish-speaking, or native Somali-speaking, and then the gender breakdown is about half and half.
At the Overnight Website Challenge, the ratio is about 50-50. In my day job at the Nerdery, it is under 50%. I think it's above industry average. One thing on that, we recently started a school for software engineers called Prime Digital Academy. It's a spin-off company. And for the first 4 cohorts of that, it's fully 50% female, which is encouraging.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great. So tell me one thing. I think part of what our organizations can do in the community, and as we're helping the community, is helping each other, right? And part of that is just telling others what we need. So if there was one thing that could push your organization forward or your initiative forward that you could have tomorrow, what would that be? Think big. Besides money?
Had an answer. We've been thinking about this a lot. So for us, one of our biggest challenges is transportation, because our students go from school to work at their internships and then back home. So all of our students go to school in the morning and then work from 1 to 5, Monday through Friday, and go home. And the majority of our students don't have cars or a driver's license. And so our biggest challenge is figuring out how to get get them to their jobs, especially in a city where we have kind of sprawling companies and suburbs. I think we really love our downtown jobs. So whenever we can find those where students can get to on public transportation, that's great. But as an organization, last year, we actually spent $100,000 subsidizing taxis for our students. And so if we could have some sort of like magic bus or something that would take our students places, that would be great.
That's a good one, magic bus.
For us, so besides money, one of the things that has increasingly been difficult over the years is that reasonably priced unlimited 4G internet is becoming a thing of the past. So the 4G WiMAX protocol is basically just fading away because the big cell carriers have bought up the small WiMAX carriers, and so that's being a very difficult thing. And broadband has not become affordable to the families that we serve. Most of the families we serve are at 50% of area median income or under, which is about $24,000 a year for a family of four. So they can't afford $100 a month to go towards broadband. So expanding really affordable broadband access in the Twin Cities would be a huge deal, and also just strengthening. We do have a public Wi-Fi system by U.S. Internet, but again, it can be slow. At peak times, it's very, very slow. But strengthening that infrastructure, making it more affordable. Actually, the Comcast deal falling through in the Twin Cities is good news for us because they do have a reasonably priced home internet package, and they were going to leave this area. So you know, as much as I am not a fan of Comcast, them not being able to merge is actually good news for us. But it's really the broadband access question, I think, for most of the lower income families and kids of color in the Twin Cities. That is the biggest issue.
Jenna, how about you guys for your organization?
Yeah, time. So programming a monthly event is, I don't want to say it's a full-time job, but both of us, we have full-time jobs, and we're doing this as we're volunteering our time for this, and we get so many requests. I have this list that's probably a good page or page and a half long of more events that people want us to have, not only just organizations that want to host an event for us and help us along with programming, but also our members are very interested in, learning technology XYZ or learning more about entrepreneurship or how to find a job, or we have a whole bunch of different ideas for events, and a monthly event is it's a lot of work to put it all together. So really, we're probably going to be after this May event, the hackathon that I mentioned, which is a 2-day ordeal. We'll probably end up looking for some additional volunteers to help us out as well with programming, as well as finding sponsors, and kind of that's a whole process in itself as well.
Great.
The Overnight Website Challenge is in pretty good shape. We would need community organizers in other cities to help us jumpstart those, and I think that's very doable. On the business side, for the nerdery, our biggest challenge, the biggest restraint is talent. There's just not enough interactive talent out there, and that's why we started Prime Digital Academy, and that's why I'm excited to be sitting next to people that are working to get more women in the industry and more kids interested in technology. These are really positive things. So just more talent.
Right. All right, so if you guys know anyone with a magic bus or transportation options, right? If you can solve the broadband problem, need more volunteers and help for running events for women, and community organizers to launch in other cities. Those are good answers, guys. So 10 words or less. Tell us all here why you do what you do, what drives you in these organizations. Mark, you can go first.
You should do what you're good at to give back.
Words or less.
You just used 5. Just kidding.
Ultimately, the warm and fuzzy that it gives me after each event, it's just very inspiring and motivating to see women finding something that they love and a community to help them, foster that.
For me, it's seeing that the kids I've been doing this for 18 years. I've been doing youth work for 18 years. So I've had kids who I've seen when they come into the program at 5, when they graduate at 18, graduate from college, watching those kids grow from a very insecure kid from a family that's really struggling to somebody who graduates from college, has an idea of what they want to do in their life, and is really gung-ho about success.
I would say companies need these students and diversity in their IT departments just as much as students need these opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you guys are all doing great work. Thanks for being at the helm of these organizations. We have time for some questions from the audience. A couple minutes here. Anyone have a question for any of the panelists? Yeah.
I guess to all of you, of the people that you help, how many do you see come back and give you back the assistance that you gave them initially?
So part of our youth development program is we actually have a residential mentoring site because we do so much housing. I have a building that has 15, 20-somethings who live in it, and this year about half of those kids are college students or recent college grads who either went through our programs or grew up in our housing. And they came back independently. I was not intentionally recruiting them, but they were saying, yep, I grew up with PPL and I love you guys and I want to mentor a kid.
When students graduate from our program, they become alumni of Genesis Works, and that brings certain benefits for them. So we help them continue on through college, help them with the FAFSA, financial aid, that kind of stuff. And a lot of times they come back and really want to be involved in our program in different ways. So they'll come volunteer at events. They love to come talk to like the new crop of students and give advice on their internship or what's been successful for them. Every summer we hire technical trainers to work through the summer and hire on or train our students in IT skills. And this summer we hired our first Genesis Works alum to be one of those trainers, which is exciting. So I think we're just getting to that point where students are graduating, and so we'll see kind of where it goes.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think for our kind of repeat customers, we're getting a lot of repeat members showing up at our events again and again, and it's exciting to see because I get to know that person as well as they get to know the rest of their community, and we've seen. I mean, even in just the last year, I've seen some of these young women have gone from teaching themselves how to code to taking some of our workshops and some of the other workshops that are hosted around the Twin Cities to actually getting into a tech position at work, a software engineering position at work, and that's awesome to see.
Our volunteers, they come back better the next time. They come back a little more experienced. They know how to, manage the time of a hackathon a little bit better, how to lead a team a little bit better. I would say, Mike, you were probably better the second year than the first year for the web challenge. In fact, you said you were robbed the second year. You should have won.
It's hard not to improve when you start where I was. Yeah. Any other questions for the panelists? Yeah.
So I was wondering about the companies that end up working with your organization. Is it the same companies over and over, and they're finding that it's beneficial to the point where they just keep enhancing or expanding the number of interns that they get? Or basically, are they finding it positive that they just want to do it, or are they just doing it to be nice to the community? You know what I mean? Like there's an actual benefit.
Well, I don't think we would be able to to grow that much if companies were doing it just to be nice. So I think our students do provide real work value, and I think for us the key is finding where at each company that kind of sweet spot is. So, for example, Medtronic is one of our original clients, started with a couple interns, and now they have about 27 interns who work at Medtronic. So we have a few, so we work with about 50 companies, and we have a few of those kind of bigger clients. Target has 27 interns, where they continue to grow year after year and find other areas. We have some smaller organizations where it makes sense to just have 1 or 2 students, but companies do really find kind of a long-term benefit and figure out, the longer that they do it, they figure out, all right, do we really need these interns to work in our help desk or desktop deployment, and kind of find what are those areas that make the most sense.
Got a question over here?
Maybe not so much as a question, but a comment for Jenna and Genesis Works. I worked at Ecolab several years ago, and we actually had a student there that worked with the service desk that was absolutely fantastic, and we actually got to see some great value. He actually helped put together a video for an IT all-staff that was also going away for the director of our infrastructure group at the time. He was retiring, and the video just turned out absolutely fantastic. He went around gathering footage from a lot of the IT employees, and it was fun to see a final product. So,
Awesome, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, that's great. All right, one other question here, and then that's all we have time for, it looks like.
About registering a non-for-profit organization, because right now I'm going through the application and that looks pretty daunting, so just if you can give me any advice, that'll be really wonderful.
Did anyone on the panel here, you want to talk about that, Mark?
Sure. Right now, registration isn't open. It'll be open around New Year's, but you can start thinking about what you want to say and really think about, how could this opportunity help your organization do what you do better? What functions could the internet replace that your people are doing that they could not do and focus on delivering service to your constituents? And then once you are registered, I would register early, because a big part of it is rallying your constituents and getting testimonials from people served by your organization, board members, staff. And that is not possible until you're fully registered and visible on our website, and then you can rally your crowd. And the judges do take all of that into account as well. So do it early, and just be as full as you can about making the business case for why this is something you need.
All right, so big round of applause for our panelists, please.